So welcome. Today's practice really, or theme, we're looking at comparison. How the mind kind of lives on comparison or thrives on comparison, and how that can often lead us to unnecessary suffering, really. The process really is the mind creating its version of reality and then measuring what's actually happening against the mind-made version. So for instance, we might be going to work in the car and the traffic's worse than usual, so we get upset, annoyed, frustrated, whatever. But we're comparing this journey to 360 previous journeys that year, yet there's nothing that is ever written to say that this journey should go how we expect it to go. So the mind can create, it has its purposes as well, but it can create for us patterns and comparisons that aren't necessarily helpful. And sometimes it can be, if we're suffering with a pain or some uncomfortable emotion that comes up temporarily, it pops up, and we often think that we shouldn't be feeling it or that it doesn't have its place. And what we're doing is we're comparing this moment to a previous moment where that emotion didn't exist or that pain wasn't there. And we're saying, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. So the skill really of letting that go is to drop the comparison. And when we do that, it kind of kicks the mind out of its automatic behaviors and allows us to be more present with actually what is happening. And often when we do that, it's a bit like turning down the resistance to life. We let go of our need for things to be a certain way. And I think I had quite a bad head day on Sunday. The thoughts were spinning quite loudly and they weren't particularly helpful thoughts. And I spent half of the day kind of in resistance to it, beating myself up. And then I realized I cottoned on. I was like, I think I might be making this worse. So once I actually accepted that today, this moment was, difficult thoughts, then the resistance dropped a little bit. The energy that I was feeding into not wanting to feel that way actually subsided. And it's a form of acceptance, really. And comparison is probably the opposite of acceptance, if we think about it that way. Quite often we're not struggling with the experience of what's happening, but we are struggling with the thought that it shouldn't be there, or the thought that it's wrong, or the thought that we're faulty because of it. So where mindfulness can really help is, inherent in the practice of mindfulness is remaining present. It's staying with our experience as it unfolds. And in that way, we notice when the mind kicks in and starts complaining about stuff. We might not notice it straight away, certainly not, but after a second we'll cotton on, we'll go, okay, I'm experiencing something here that is uncomfortable, that I don't want to experience, and the mind will be arguing or fighting with it in some way. So the invitation is to soften, to soften our awareness and just see if we can allow whatever is happening to be there. Because as we know, if it's there, it's already there. There's little use fighting with what is, because we will lose against it. There was a couple of other things that I wanted to say about it, but they're not coming to my mind at the moment. So what we might do is just get into a meditation, if you're all happy to do that. If anyone has any questions, then let me know. The meditation will be we'll settle into our posture, into the breath, and then we kind of open our senses a little bit. We might do a little bit of a body scan, and then we'll enter like a resting period. And this is where we start to notice what's happening. We notice where the mind, if it's run off for 5 minutes, or if it's running off every 2 seconds. And we just gently guide it back, and we'll use the breath and the body as our home during this practice. So as soon as we notice that we're not with the breath or the body, then our job is to bring our awareness back to that. And then we'll have an opportunity to share afterwards. So we will, if no one's got any questions, we'll begin the practice. And I'll ring the bell, and allowing the sound of the bell just to reach us where we are. Receiving. We're open and receiving the sound. We don't need to search for it. We don't need to put any effort into it. It's just arising all by itself. And as the sound fades away, it might reveal a background silence. And at the beginning of a meditation, it's always helpful just to attend to our posture. And there's no perfect posture, but we can offer some straightness to the spine if that feels comfortable. Sometimes growing out of our seat is helpful. We may wish to close the eyes, relaxing the jaw. And just feeling the weight of the shoulders settling down either side of the spine. Hands perhaps resting on the lap. And just aware of is there any intention or striving to leave what's already here? Are we searching for an experience other than this one? And that's okay, but we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change anything. This moment has never happened before. And we can bring to mind our motivation for practicing today. What brought us here today? Why are we here? And there's no wrong answer. Maybe there's nothing coming up. Maybe a few things are coming up. And we can let that go, let that fade away. And we bring our awareness to breathing. It might be helpful to narrow our attention onto the breath, but onto the part of the body where we feel the breath the most. And maybe that's the nose. We might feel the air coming in and leaving the nose or mouth. Maybe it's the movement of the chest or the belly. Maybe just a general sense of the body breathing. And we can invite the breath to deepen slightly. And our aim is to bring something of a balanced breath rhythm. So the inhale and the exhale are a similar length. And that might be helpful to count, say to 3 or 4 on the inhale, and then match that on the exhale. Or maybe saying a phrase such as, I'm breathing in and I know that this is my in-breath. And I'm breathing out and I know that this is my out-breath. And if any of those options aren't comfortable, sometimes you can just visualize waves coming up the beach on the inhale and then receding on the exhale. We're breathing gently, smoothly, breathing out softly. And it won't take very long before the mind comes up with something that's more interesting. And whenever we notice that that's happened, we might notice straight away, or it might be a few minutes later. We simply notice, oh, okay, that's thinking happening. But right now, I'm more interested in the breath. And we invite our attention gently back into this nice, even flow of breathing. And each time we notice the mind wander, we gently let go of thinking, and we come back home. We become intimate with the breath. Getting to know it. How does it feel? Getting as close as we can to the breath. Allowing the body and the mind to come together with the breath. And we can let go of counting, we can let go of any phrases or any effort at all to change the breath and allow it to return to its natural rhythm. So we're doing our best just to observe the breath without interfering with it, although we might find we naturally get a little bit involved with it just through the nature of watching it. And that's okay. Bringing our awareness to how the body feels as we let go of the breath. Noticing if the body wants to soften on the exhale. And as we watch the breath in this way, we find that the body lets go of the breath, and the body sinks a bit lower into the seat, feeling the sensation of the ground coming up to meet us. And we can start to soften any tensions in the body. We can invite them to soften. So scanning from the top of the body around the top of the head and the brow. Just breathing in and out of these areas, inviting any softening, any letting go. Into the head and the brow, maybe the cheeks and the jaw. Softening the mouth, the tongue, the teeth. The throat, the neck. And softening the shoulders. Letting go of any tension that wants to be let go of. Allowing the body to rest. Noticing if the chest wants to soften. The back. Can we invite the spine to relax? Maybe the belly. Maybe we're holding on to some tension in the belly or the chest, the heart. And coming down into the area of the hips, the pelvis, and the seat. Just inviting those to soften, to let go. The big leg muscles softening on the outside, softening on the inside. And down through the knees, the lower legs. Into the feet. Letting go of the toes, any tension under the foot, inside the foot. And perhaps noticing the connection with the ground. If our feet are in some way in contact with the ground. And lastly, the hands and the arms. Noticing how it feels to have hands. I mean, what is present right now? Any sensation in the area of the hands? Maybe some tingling. Maybe pulsating, maybe temperature. Any contact. And becoming aware of the whole body. So expanding our awareness. And noticing the whole body resting in this space. And if the mind pulls us away, we can just come back to this sense of the body here, being here. And maybe there's some discomforts. Maybe there's some tensions remaining. And the invitation is to allow these sensations to be here, to give them space. And whenever we notice the mind, it goes into thinking, whether it's past thinking, future thinking, maybe into judgment, maybe some form of criticism or expectation. All of that is perfectly normal. It's something we all experience during a meditation. So all we need to do is notice that that's what's happening and invite our attention back to this body, and maybe a little bit closer to the breath. And if the mind is relaxed or reasonably still, we can rest like this, just open awareness, aware lightly of the breath, of the body, aware of the space around us, welcoming the sounds around us, and just rest, not needing anything to change. Noticing if the mind occasionally distracts us and returning. And if the mind is more active, then the invitation is to come a little bit closer to the breath, to give the mind something to do. And in a relaxed way, we can explore the breath, noticing the beginning and the middle and the end of the inhale. And then the beginning and the middle and the end of the exhale. None of this is wrong. There's no wrong turns. Each moment is brand new. Each moment fresh. And we often find the mind will settle down when we cease to seek answers from it. We're not here to get entwined in thinking or problem solving. We're not even here to understand. We're here to let go of the need to understand, to let go of the need to work things out. That's all mind activity. So if we're engaged in any kind of thinking, then we recognize that it's happening, we let it go, and we invite our awareness back into this moment, into the body, with the breath. And it doesn't have to be serious. The mind will make things out to be very serious. That's just what it does. It's not the enemy, it's not a problem. It's just not our focus. We're not interested. We're interested in this moment, in the breath, in the body, in our surroundings. And sometimes the mind is turbulent, sometimes it's very busy. And can we allow the mind to be as it is? What happens when we give ourselves total permission just to be as we are, including a busy mind? Including an uncomfortable emotion, including the thought that this should be different. Just offering some acceptance, some space, just allowing this body mind to experience itself. And the invitation as we approach the end of the practice is to reflect momentarily and ask ourselves, how was this practice? And then as the mind comes up with whatever it comes up with, I'm invited to just ask, compared to what? Compared to what? This meditation was distracting or uncomfortable compared to my expectations, compared to previous meditations. Notice how the mind creates that division. So however the practice is gone, letting any descriptions of it fall away, coming back to the breath. And if it's comfortable, placing one hand over the heart or the chest, Feeling the sense of touch. Perhaps there's some warmth. And we end our practice with the dedication that any peace, any wellness, any joy, any space that we experience during the practice, we can dedicate that to anyone who may be in need of it. Reaching out as far as we like. And then allowing the sound of the bell to awaken us, to bring us home again if we've been on travels or wherever we've gone, whatever's happened. You might want to begin to open the eyes or move the body in a way that feels good. Been sat here for a while.